Taoiseach, this week the INMO conference is being held in Killarney, and the issue of health services is very much to the fore of that particular conference. But the Secretary-General of the conference has spoken and raised the issue of trolleys and the fact that hospital management in some hospitals are deliberately misleading the trolley count and hiding trolleys with patients in hospitals to make sure that the trolley count is reduced to comply with the government's intentions and PR strategy. So what I'm saying, Taoiseach, quite clearly here is, do you first and foremost accept the veracity of Mr Doran's comments that the management are under such pressure from the government to reduce trolley counts that they are actually and intentionally hiding trolleys in hospitals to make sure that there is a reduction? And if that is the case,
please.
It is easy to reduce the trolley count if you are hiding them, Taoiseach, from the actual counting process. Equally, Taoiseach, the INMO conference has heard that nurses are now calling for a hotline to be established so that they can complain about patient safety compromise. So what I'm asking you today, Taoiseach, is first and foremost, do you accept the veracity of Mr Doran's comments that counts are being manipulated to comply with government pressure to reduce it? And equally, do you accept that nurses who are at the front line of the health services are now very concerned on a continual basis about the compromise to patient safety?
Thank you.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. I did hear an interview with the General Secretary of the INMO yesterday, I think it was, and I heard him acknowledge that the number of people waiting on trolleys was significantly down from last year. I think the figure that was used was I think in the order of 15–16%. Secondly, I also heard him acknowledge that the strategy that the government has pursued and the Minister for Health has pursued through the Special Delivery Unit is working. I think at a practical level, I think it would be very difficult to hide trolleys in a hospital. I don't think that I don't think that at a practical level that anybody would want to do that, first of all, but secondly, I can't see how it could be done at a practical level. The government and the Minister for Health is very open to hearing whatever advice can be provided by people at the front line of our health services, nurses, doctors, all of those who work in our hospitals. These are the people who know at first hand what is happening in hospitals, and the government has also made it clear that we want to hear from people at the front line and are willing to take on board any suggestions that they have to make.
Taoiseach, we all acknowledge that there has been a reduction in the number of people waiting on trolleys. It's down actually 17%. But on a year-on-year basis since 2007, it is still up. So we have a major crisis in our hospitals, particularly in our emergency departments. Now, the clear facts of the matter is, do you accept the veracity of Mr Doran's comments that up to 10 hospital management groups are misleading the trolley count and are actually placing trolleys in areas where they are not being counted? And Taoiseach, may I remind you, we are not talking about trolleys, we're talking about patients on trolleys. We're talking about patients, and we are talking about compromising patient safety. There's been several motions at the INMO conference, and many of them are to do with the fact that frontline services now feel they cannot safely provide a health service, and that is being compromised on a continual basis because of the pressures that are being put on management and the lack of frontline resources.
Thank you, Deputy.
Well, first of all, I mean, let's acknowledge a success where there is success. The number of people on trolleys is down, and it's down by 17% over the course of the last year, and that is acknowledged by the INOM, and it is of course the INMO who count the trolleys. The numbers are down. they have acknowledged that the strategy through the Special Delivery Unit, that is working. Now, of course, there is more to be done, and there are more improvements to be achieved. And the Government and the Minister for Health will continue with that work, and will hear and is open to hearing from the people at the front line, including nurses, what needs to be done. But the bottom line here is that the numbers of people on trolleys waiting, that number is down, and by any standards, a 17% reduction over the course of the year is a significant reduction.
Thank you. Now calling Deputy MacDonald on behalf of Sinn Féin.
As you know, the news from Germany yesterday is that opposition to austerity and the austerity treaty is growing. The peoples of France, Greece, Italy and Germany are opposed to austerity, and indeed their politicians in both of those countries are prepared to take a stand. As you know, the Bundestag has had to abandon its plans for ratification of the treaty because your sister party has done the right thing and has called the treaty for what it is, a bad deal. We know about the divisions, of course, within Fianna Fáil in respect to the treaty, but of course there's division within your own party too. The Labour Deputy Mayor of Galway City, Colette Connolly, says that there are many people in Labour who share her opposition to the austerity treaty, but who won't come out and say so publicly. She said, and I quote, "I won't be voting for the treaty. It's anti-democratic. They shouldn't put issues about the Constitution to the people and say, if you don't support this, you'll be punished." Her colleague, and your colleague, on Fingal County Council, Cian O'Callaghan, describes the treaty as a step too far. And of course, Fine Gael have their own divisions too. The Mayor of Longford, James Keogh, says, speaking as a business person, that he is urging people to vote now. Now, I feel pretty sure, despite the heckling to my right,
maybe I could have a question.
That there are TDs within the Labour Party who equally recognise that this treaty is a bad deal. So, Taoiseach, is it not now time for you to join the growing opposition to austerity across Europe and indeed within your own party?
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, of course, everybody that Sinn Féin mentions in this context, and everybody in the country, will have the opportunity on the 31st of May to decide individually on this treaty. That's why we have a referendum, so that people can decide. Individual citizens go into a ballot box and make a decision as to what is in the best interests of this country and the best interests of the people of the country. And by any standards, it is in the best interests of the people of the country that we are sure, first of all, that we will have access to emergency funding if we need it. And the only certain emergency funding that's available to this state after 2013 is the European Stability Mechanism, for which we will have to ratify the treaty. Secondly, if you look back over the recent past and you look at the jobs announcements that have been made in recent times, Abbott, who announced 175 jobs in Sligo, HP, who announced 280 jobs in Galway and Kildare, Microsoft, a 130 million investment in Dublin, Mylan, 500 jobs in North Dublin, Eli Lilly, 500 jobs in Cork South West, Cisco, 115 jobs in Galway, Apple, 500 jobs in Cork, PayPal 1,000 jobs in Louth, Amgen 100 jobs in Dunleary, SAP 250 jobs in City West and Galway, Tuesday's announcement that Total Defence is to create an extra 100 jobs in Dublin, and indeed today's announcement of Aviva, which is turning around what was originally a very bad story of job losses, and turning that around so that we're now seeing additional jobs being created. We want that to continue, and in order for that to continue, investors have to have confidence in this country, have to have confidence that there's no doubt about our relationship with the euro, and they also have to have confidence in the euro itself. And that's what this treaty is about. It's about stability in the euro, confidence for investors, and making sure that as a country that we will have access to emergency funding if we need it. That's what's in the best interests of this country and of the Irish people. And it is a matter for this country as a sovereign state and our people individually and independently to make that decision on the 31st of May.
Thank you. Deputy MacDonald.
And all of those announcements are welcome and, of course, have happened in the absence of this austerity treaty. Of course, the one figure that you leave out from your response is the almost 500,000 people still on the live registry. You see, you've been found out, Taoiseach. You've been found out because the political sands are shifting. And your sister parties in the European Union, along with the European trade union movement, and most importantly, along with the citizens of France and Greece and Italy and Britain, recognise categorically that austerity is not working. And there is little sense, Taoiseach, in you throwing out the red herrings around funding, throwing out a completely absurd argument that austerity will deliver growth when it has patently failed to do so. You say that each citizen has a right to cast their vote. Do I take it from that those Labour Party members, supporters and elected representatives now have a free hand, have a free decision to make in respect of how they vote? Because there is very clearly unease within even your own grassroots. So if you're not prepared, if you're not prepared to take account of the clear political shift away from austerity all across the continent, perhaps you might consider listening to those within your own grassroots, Labour Party people who know that austerity has failed, who know that austerity will not deliver jobs and prosperity, who know how badly people are suffering, and who are not prepared to go along with your delusional stance in blindly supporting a treaty so clearly against the interests of this state and her citizens.
Thank you. Maybe you give the Taoiseach a chance to reply, please. Thank you.
Nobody is in favour of austerity, and nobody wants austerity. The question is.
Sorry, hold on.
The question
Don't be getting excited.
The question is, how do you get out of it? And how you get out of it is by ensuring that there is investment in our country, that jobs are created, and these are not red herrings. These are real jobs announced by people who have, and companies who have decided to invest in this country, and they have decided to invest in this country because the government has succeeded in restoring international confidence to this country and restoring their confidence to it. We have not seen, and I'm here in this House a very long time, and I have not seen a succession of jobs announcements that matches this in any time that I have been here. And you know, we need to continue that, because the way out of the economic difficulty that we have in this country is to grow our economy and to create jobs. And I welcome. Look, everybody individually will go into a ballot box in privacy and cast their vote. Now, I know that Sinn Féin has a rather unique way of dealing with political dissent and political disagreement, and none of us particularly want to go that route.
Thank you.
We welcome. This government has made it very clear from the very beginning that the strategy to economic recovery requires growth. That's why the Taoiseach wrote to the President of the European Council last year, setting out a growth strategy. That's why it was agreed at the January summit that there would be a growth agenda. That's why it was written into the text of the treaty on which we are voting, that this treaty is about promoting growth and job creation and competitiveness and social cohesion. And that is why That is why we welcome, in particular, the result of the election in France, where there is a new president who wants to accelerate the growth agenda. What has happened in Greece, which you appear to be welcoming, is not something I think that the people of this country would welcome. The level of social unrest, of political instability, on top of the economic difficulties that they have. And remember this. Sinn Féin and others were advising this government that we should go the route of Greece only 6 months ago. Do you still advise that we should go the route of Greece? We are taking our route. We are taking our route to recovery, and that route means that we have investor confidence, that we continue with the inward investment into this country, that we promote the growth agenda that is now being talked about in Europe. And in order to do that, you have to have stability in the European economy, and you have to have stability around the euro, and that is why we need to vote yes on the 31st of May.
Deputy Boyd Barrett.
Taoiseach, I have to say the government's determination to support the austerity treaty is becoming increasingly bizarre. And I say, in all sincerity, you seem to be taking the best boy in the class in Europe routine just a little bit too far. Yesterday, the revolt against the austerity agenda and the treaty spread to Germany itself. The country which is the architect of this treaty, and the guru of austerity, Angela Merkel, can now not even get the treaty through her own parliament. And your comrades in the SPD, in explaining their refusal to ratify the fiscal treaty, said we won't support a cutbacks orgy. Now, isn't it extraordinary when your comrades in Germany say the fiscal treaty represents a cutbacks orgy, and that's in the relatively healthy economy of Germany? How on earth are you supporting the same cutbacks orgy that would be involved in meeting the targets of the fiscal treaty in the traumatised Irish economy? It is extraordinary. And can you please confirm whether your minister's statement yesterday in this House, that even if we vote no to the fiscal treaty, we are still going to commit ourselves to up to €11 billion into the ESM fund, which you say we can't access if we vote no to the fiscal treaty? Are you seriously suggesting the government's position is we're going to pay €11 billion into a fund you claim we can't access? So seriously, Taoiseach, can I ask you to make the momentous announcement that we didn't get from Deputy O'Keefe the other day, that you are going to abandon this discredited and doomed treaty and join the growing demand for real growth, real jobs strategy in Europe, rather than continuing your commitment to the sinking ship of the fiscal austerity treaty?
Thank you. Well, without interruption, please. Thank you.
Deputy, you made a rather momentous announcement yourself during the week when you told us that your alternative to this treaty was an additional €10 billion in taxes. You'd effectively double what is taken in income tax, and on top of that, that you wanted to collapse the euro. Now, where do you think that is going to leave us? Now, it may well be. It may well be that what is happening in Greece is a cause for arousal for you, Deputy Boyd Barrett, or for some other members in this House.
Sorry. Taoiseach, to continue, please. Thank you.
But believe you me, it's not the route that sensible people in this country want to go. The route that we want to go here is to work our way out of the economic difficulty in which we have found ourselves. In order to do that, we have to attract investment and jobs. We are succeeding in doing that. We want to continue that success. In order to continue that success, There has to be confidence in Ireland and confidence in the euro and confidence in our relationship with the euro, and that is why we need to pass this treaty. Secondly, if we are to avoid what you call an orgy of cuts, we need to have access to emergency funding if we are ever to need it. I mean, if we arrive at the end of 2013 and the treaty has been rejected and it undermines confidence in Ireland, and we can't get back into the financial markets, and we have to have recourse to emergency funding, and we don't have access to the ESM, there is no answer. There is no coherent answer from anybody who is advocating a no vote in this campaign as to where that emergency funding will come from. And there is no answer to be provided to people who work in our public services about how their wages will be paid or how they'll be maintained. No answer to people who depend on social welfare payments as to how their payments are going to be maintained. No answer to people who depend on the hospital services that we have talked about earlier today, or schools, or any of the other things that we need to have. We have to work our way out of the economic difficulties we're in. We're doing that. We're making progress. We're getting the investment. We need to copper fasten that and underpin it by having confidence in the euro, stability in the eurozone, and that's why we need to pass the treaty on the 31st of May.
Thank you. Deputy Boyd Barrett.
Taoiseach, first of all, we have made absolutely clear in our pre-budget submission, and that's all I articulated this week, that all we were talking about were wealth taxes on the top 5% of our population and increased income taxes on people earning over €100,000 a year. Not taxes on the low and middle income workers, as you have imposed, not cutbacks on the vulnerable, but taxes on the super wealthy and on high earners. However, I'll pass over that issue, and indeed the interesting fetish of your comrades in the SPD, who and your own fetish for interesting vocabulary,
Thank you.
Such as orgies and arousals, and this is obviously a new team. This is obviously a new team for the Second International, despite their differences on policy over the fiscal treaty.
Could I have a question, please?
But,
I'm getting excited here myself, waiting for the question. Waiting for the question, please. Thank you.
The question I asked, which you haven't answered. Is why is it your comrades in Germany now believe this treaty will require an orgy of cuts, and you are still committed to it? And can you confirm that it is the government's position that we will still commit €11 billion to the ESM fund, even if we vote no to this treaty, which you said would exclude us from the ESM fund?
Well, first of all,
yeah, we have to reply. Thank you.
First of all, the deputy is wrong in a number of respects. First of all, he's wrong in his allegation that this government has increased tax on lower income people. We have not. We did not increase income tax in the budget. We took 330,000 people out of the universal social charge, and we reversed the cut in the national minimum wage. Secondly, with regard to the ESM, we are not required to contribute €11 billion to the ESM. That refers to the amount that may be called upon. The amount that countries, it's different to the amount that countries are required to put up front. This country's contribution to the ESM is less than 1.6% of the total of the ESM fund. And I think the issue, I think a more immediate issue for this country is that we have access to the ESM. The euro needs to have a supporting mechanism, a supporting fund, which is an emergency fund for the members of the eurozone. That's what the ESM is about. it's not unreasonable. I think that every country who's a member of the euro contributes to that. And the primary issue for Ireland is that we would have access to it if we need it. And if the treaty is defeated, let's be absolutely clear about that, we will not have access to it. And finally, my comrades in Europe, as you described them, Deputy, are in favour of growth, which is what this government is in favour of. We have argued consistently that the treaty alone on its own is not sufficient to recover the European economy, that we need a growth strategy as well. That is why we put growth on the agenda before the treaty was negotiated. That is why growth is contained in the text of the treaty. That is why the conclusions in January talked about a parallel growth strategy, and we welcome the fact. It is a good thing for this country, and it is a good thing for Europe that there are now growing voices in Europe who will accelerate the growth agenda and promoting it.
Thank you.